Good morning, good afternoon, or perhaps even good evening. Thank you very much for joining our latest webinar today. We are going to be covering the dark web and some key things in 2023. My name is John Moss. I'm your host for today, and I'm delighted to have on the other end of the camera Daniel Collier, our threat intelligence analyst from SOS Intelligence.
Yeah, hi everybody, and thank you, John, once again for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here. So a little bit of housekeeping first, if I may. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to the webinar today. We're going to be talking for around 25, 30 minutes. We're going to have plenty of time for questions at the end. But if you do have questions during, if you have a look in your browser window, you can see there is a questions tab down here on the right-hand side. Please feel free to add a question. And if everybody's looking at the questions being posed, you can actually upvote. Little click as well if you'd also like to know the answer to that question. We can't promise to answer everything today because of time restrictions, and we might not even know the answer. But we will make a note and get back to you. We also have a number of polls going. Same location, bottom right, just next to the questions tab. If you wouldn't mind answering some of the polls there, that would be really useful for us. So thank you very much. And last but not least, just if you haven't heard of SOS Intelligence before, we provide business risk insight using cyber threat intelligence. So if you don't know about what's going on online and what's being talked about, whether it's your email address, your brand name, or your company name, you simply can't act. And what we do is provide curated, actionable multi-source threat intelligence that you can act upon. And so we're all about empowering businesses and organizations and enabling you to monitor your third-party risk as well. So do check us out, sosintel.co.uk. There is a wealth of information there, and we have a very active blog with CVE updates on a Monday and also some fantastic reports as well, of which this event is actually based on. So Daniel's recently written and published a Dark Web 2023 analysis and report. So that's what we're going to be covering today. So no further ado, let's go. So Daniel, there's some specific definitions here and some kind of things that people get mixed up on. So if you could let us know a little bit around what these definitions are, that would be really helpful as a good start.
Absolutely. So the media does tend to kind of muddy the water a little bit with these definitions. So we thought it'd be quite helpful to kind of go through some of these first, just to clear up roughly what each one means and what we're talking about when we mention them. So the first one everyone should have heard of, the internet. It is simply the term used to define the global network of connected devices. So it's a network of networks, all the devices connected together to form one giant network encompassing the globe, and even a little bit beyond now. Now we have kind of satellite internet connectivity. And so as part of that, we then have kind of the World Wide Web. It's a method of communication over the internet, and it's how the vast majority of people interact with the internet as well. So as part of that, we have the clear web. That is roughly about 10% of the content of the internet, and that is what most people will see. And generally, it can also be defined as that's the bit that Google can see. That's the bit that all these different search engines can send out their bots and spiders to scrape the data and make it indexable and searchable. We then move into kind of the deep web, and this is where the definitions start to get a bit mixed and muddied, especially in the media. The deep web is that bit of the iceberg that's under the water. That is the bit of the internet that's there but is not easily accessible. Now, this can be whether it's things that are stuck behind password or firewalls or things like that, or it can be elements of a company's network which require internet connectivity, but not so much that every Tom, Dick, and Harry can come in along and get access to that. It's only for the people within that network. So, yeah, that should theoretically be closed off to the wider internet. Sometimes it's not, and you do hear about companies being accessed because they haven't got that security in place to block that part of their network off from everyone else on the internet. It does happen with alarming frequency.
I think I've seen a few alerts about that today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was one came out yesterday about McDonald's being able to their network being able to be accessed through their own Wi-Fi, their own public Wi-Fi within their restaurants. So it does happen. It only takes one misconfigured protocol or server, and someone can get in and view that data that is on the internet but is not meant for public eyes. And then finally we have the darknet. The darknet is an overlaid network. It sits on top of the internet. It uses the internet's infrastructure, but it's its own separate network in and of itself. It doesn't kind of reach out beyond itself. And this is where the dark web comes in. It's that collection of data and sites within a darknet that are hosted purely within that darknet. It can only then be accessed using certain tools or configured software. So the most common, there are several different types of darknet out there. The most prominent one, though, is Tor or the Onion Router. So Tor was developed in the late 90s, early 2000s by the US military, and it was designed to enhance their secure communications and make it easier to communicate via the internet online. It was then publicly released in 2004 and is now often used to provide communications through to places and from places where traditional methods might not be suitable, such as going through war zones or going through places which have a high level of censorship and security over their own internet. So accessing Tor does require specific software. Whenever you want to access it, you download a browser that's been specifically configured in order to access Tor. And then within that, you can access the using that network to access the internet as you know, and the World Wide Web as you normally would. You can go to your BBC website, you can go to your Gmail account, but you can also access sites which are specific for that network, which we refer to as onions, based on the top level domain that they use, .onion. Now, Tor is designed to limit the exposure of its users. It's sometimes erroneously believed that it's fully anonymous. It's not. It's designed just to limit the exposure. It is very hard to de-anonymize traffic over Tor. It just and it would take a lot of resource to be able to do that, but it's not impossible, and that's something very important to consider.
Got it. That's very good. We're going to talk a little bit about how actually Tor works shortly, but I've deliberately put in this kind of slide here. This is the Wikipedia definition of the dark web. And we, on a previous call when we were looking at this, we decided this is pretty good. So the dark web is the World Wide Web content that exists on dark nets, overlay networks that use the internet but require specific software, configurations, or authorization to access. So through the dark web, private computer networks can communicate and conduct business anonymously as much as they can. But this to me is a pretty good definition, isn't it, on Wikipedia?
It is, yeah. It's relatively straightforward and simple, and I think most people kind of pick out what the various elements of the deep and dark web are from that. And
I think it's. Am I right in saying that there is an increase in people understanding what the dark web is, Daniel? But it's still, I saw a recent poll, I think, earlier this morning saying that the vast majority of people aren't really aware of what it does and the potential for your credentials being broadcast if they are, taken from you in some nefarious means. So it is on the increase in terms of understanding, isn't it? But it's critical for businesses to realize just what the ramifications are in terms of data being leaked onto the dark web.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is becoming more well known as people become more kind of privacy savvy and are more technically savvy. But yeah, there is still a need to kind of understand exactly what this system is. Although it was designed for with privacy in mind, it has kind of been taken over a little bit by the criminal element in that it has provided a very good host for criminal activity. So we do see, and we're going to go kind of look at these a little bit later. A lot of the ransomware groups will host their blogs and their data sharing within a dark web within Tor, just because they can then maintain that anonymity, and they can kind of hide themselves away a little bit from the law enforcement people out there who are trying to find them.
Yeah, actually, we've got the first question. So Tor or I2P is the only dark. Is that the only way we can access the dark net?
Yes, so there are. I think, as I mentioned, there are several different dark nets. So Tor is one, I2P is another, and there are several more out there. So with these dark nets, they're designed so that the browser or the software you access them with is specifically configured in order to access that network. So I can open up my Chrome browser and go to a .onion site, but I could open up my Tor browser and go to a regular .com or .org or whatever. So it works one way but not the other. So you do need to have that specific software on your internet device in order to access it. But especially with Tor, it's very, very easy to obtain. You just go to the website, download it, install it like you would a normal browser, and then it's done.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you for the question. So we talked a little bit about Tor, but how it works is important to understand, isn't it? So the next few slides, we're just going to go through some of the specifics with this. So take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So the basis of Tor is using encryption, passing your data through various nodes, which are part of the network, and never really reusing a path in order to maintain as much anonymity and security as is possible. So whenever you do connect to Tor, the first thing your device will do is speak to a directory server, and will find out where all the active nodes are and how to communicate with them. What it'll then do is it'll send the data you're trying to transfer. It'll encrypt it and send it off to the first node. And then once it reaches this first node cannot see the data that's there. That is encrypted and can't be unencrypted at that point. All that node can then see is where the data's come from and where the data needs to go to. So it will decrypt its part, read the places the node it's got to send it on to, and then send it on to that next node. That next node then only sees the node before and the node after, so it's to and it's from node, and that just repeats through that network until it gets to the exit node, who then can then only see where have I got to send this data to. At that point, the data is then unencrypted and sent on to its final destination. So that in this instance, we're sending a message from Alice to Bob. At each stage, each device can only see where it's come from, where it's gone to. And so much so that when Bob receives that data, he can only then see the last node in the chain that it's come from. He won't know he won't know any details about Alice, which is where the anonymity comes from.
Got it. Understood. Yeah. And then again, if a user visits another site, we then have a similar thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if a new connection is made, a new transfer of data occurs, then the network will generate a new path. It's just trying to keep that as anonymous as possible, and by changing the path, it prevents people from trying to track back along the paths. So eventually you would be able to see if they kept the path the same, you'd eventually be able to see, a string of data moving across the internet if you were capable of monitoring that, and then you would eventually be able to get back to the source, which we don't want. That's not what Tor's about. So it selects a random path every single time you need to make a different communication.
Perfect. Thank you. So that's how Tor works. So people are generally, they've heard of Tor. We know what the dark web is now. We've had some definitions around the clear web and the deep web, so we know the distinction there. But one of the things that Daniel spent some time on, and this is sort of bringing it right up to date to 2023, are some of the statistics around the dark web this year. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the actual languages. So this, as in the country languages, and there's some unsurprising news there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, let's start by saying that hopefully everyone here will know about SOS Intelligence and what it is we do and the products we provide. If not, book a demo, we can show you, and we can show you kind of the data we work with. But essentially what we're doing is we are going through the dark web, going through Tor, and just kind of collecting as much data as we can about the sites that are on there. And while we're collecting that data, we're looking at the actual content itself, but in and amongst that, we are collecting the metadata as well, so we can kind of have a look at that and see how Tor is made up, basically what it's constituted of. And the first one we've got here is the languages that are used within the sites. So specifically about how it's set up, what the default language is for that particular site. And the only one language is English, which I don't think is to be it's to be expected, really. It's the third most common native language in the world. It's the most common spoken language in the world. So it would make sense that it is it is at the top of that list. So kind of going further down, though, there's we can see there's several European larger kind of more technically advanced countries. They come from the Western Europe, Japan, Russian in that as the second highest, as it has been for quite some time now. That can kind of mean one or two things. That could either be that a lot of the criminal forums, especially the higher tier ones, and a lot of the most serious threat actors are Russian, so it makes sense that their sites are in Russian. Additionally, if you kind of look at on the other side of that, Russian internet is quite closed off, so they have kind of almost firewalled the country off from the internet itself. So having that outlet for certain people within Russia may be why that's coming up as number 2. And it's interesting to kind of see Estonia and Latvia appear on there. So we've got 2 former Soviet states share a border with Russia. I can't say off the top of my head about Latvia, but I know Estonia is a NATO member. So again, this may be a kind of a response to the current crisis in Ukraine, where people in Estonia, Latvia, wanting to get the information and data out to other areas, other places, and to be able to communicate more securely with that kind of that threat of Russia over the border.
Got it. Okay. That's fascinating. And we can see that, there is some consistency over the years, isn't there? That you've got English and Russian dominating since, certainly what we've put here on the slide. So we've got now the next set of statistics, and this is looking at server technologies. So this was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly, we are seeing Nginx as the top technology in use, and it's grown significantly since we last took a snap of this data in 2021. And not being overly technically minded, I've kind of had a little look into this, and I think the main reason for this is the fact that Nginx provides quite a useful reverse proxy service on its servers, so it kind of adds that layer of protection between a site, between a server and the people trying to access it. So anyone trying to access it won't be able to see the true IP of that server. They'll get the proxy IP, and it just kind of provides that additional layer of operational security for whoever's running that server. And if it's more often than not, it's some criminal element, then it's just an extra layer of protection for them. They don't have to spend time moving their servers around onto new IPs, and prevents them from being located and seized.
Got it. That's very useful. And then the next, what else we looked at was other web technologies, and again, showing some clear domination here is PHP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, PHP it's like a little Swiss Army knife of web technology. It includes a lot of different tools and pieces of software within itself that someone will need to design, maintain, and run a web service, and it's easy to use. So the majority of people, and especially within Tor, you're not looking to create this fancy looking website. You just want something that's going to go up and run and do the function that you want it to do. So you want something that's going to make that as easy as possible, and hence why a lot of people are using PHP.
Got it. Understood. And then the next one we looked at, which it was great, you were explaining this to me in a little bit more detail yesterday. So open ports.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you make a connection across the internet, you're communicating via a port. So you'll go into within the IP that will be split into a few tens of thousands of ports. Each one will have its own specific role within that communication. And what we've seen is the overwhelming majority, and this is kind of 99% of all traffic is going through ports 80, 81, and 8080, which is for HTTP traffic, which I think is to be expected. People operating on Tor, you can start to get the secure layer in there now, but it's off. If you're a criminal actor, you're not going to really bother trying to get that accreditation, that secure certificate in order to use HTTPS, because it will involve giving away your details, and you're not really going to want to do that because it makes it easy to find you. So we're seeing overwhelming majority using simple HTTP ports. Interesting though that the next highest one was port 2082, which is commonly used for cPanel, which is a way of doing hosting control online, and we kind of hypothesize there that is where certain elements of the online community are using that to control malware. It's command and control servers. It's trying to conduct the criminal element through Tor.
Thank you. So now we come on to good old onions. So these are the actual sites within the actual dark web itself, and there's been a bit of an increase. Certainly this year, we're seeing a definite slope upwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this kind of comes back to what we were saying earlier, that a lot more people are understanding what Tor is. A lot more people are using it. So it would make sense that the number of sites on there is kind of increasing as a result. And we are seeing kind of the changes in certain aspects of behavior. So there are lots more ransomware strains going up now, and they are using onions in order to showcase their exposed data. And some of the more established groups are using multiple onions to do that. Whenever they communicate with their customers, they'll have a specific onion for that customer, that victim. Just as it's an operational security method to prevent, try and prevent monitoring, try and make it harder for law enforcement to profile these groups. So I think that's why we're kind of seeing this steady growth over the last year.
Got it. Thank you. And something that is at the crux of what we do here at SOS Intelligence is giving people almost that not quite pre-crime, but that information about
Yeah.
what's happening online. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in more detail. But ransomware is just such a huge issue right now, isn't it? We're seeing almost news items almost on a daily basis around this, and not just small companies. It's affecting big organizations, government organizations, national institutions like the NHS. But this slide is one of the most fascinating ones. It's just showing, what are the largest strains. And there seems to be, again, a bit of a winner here, to use that in a very loose term, which is Lockbit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as I said, there are loads of ransomware strains out there. There are more and more being developed, and it does seem to be growing exponentially. I've been doing a lot of work on ransomware in the last few weeks, just trying to build up our knowledge of that and what's actually going on in a more of a lifetime basis. But overwhelmingly, it is Lockbit, and I think that is down to its business model. It's a ransomware as a service operating model. So the threat actors in Russia have developed Lockbit, but they generally aren't the ones actually using it and deploying it. They're just selling access to it for about 30-40% of the total ransom. So they're getting a good chunk of money back, and with significantly less risk. But because of that, there's lots of people out there using Lockbit, and as it becomes it's almost marketing itself now. When we see things like this, people, I need some ransomware, I'm going to use Lockbit, just because it's the one that everyone's heard of. So it just kind of feeds itself, and it's just building up and up and up and up.
Got it. And sadly, it's not one particular industry or vertical which are getting targeted and having ransomware deployed in, isn't it? And it's everywhere.
It's no one is safe now. A few years ago, there was this kind of unwritten rule in the ransomware world that you don't target healthcare. But that seems to have gone out the window a little bit now. I think certainly there are groups now which will just target anyone. They don't really care as long as they get their money.
Morals are not kind of the thing that are discussed on a daily basis with these people, sadly.
No, the primary function of ransomware is financial. It's to get money. There is going to be a hostile state actor element behind that. So there is going to be there are certain groups out there which are closely linked to foreign national governments. Clop being one of the bigger ransomware strains, which is very, very publicly pro-Russian. So much so they did come out at the beginning of the Ukraine war and state their intent to support the war by via ransomware. So a lot of the groups certainly that operate in Russia can do so freely because they don't target the Russian government or Russian victims. We quite often see ransomware strains and certainly malware strains as well, which are specifically written to identify if they're on a Russian speaking device and then do not deploy.
Right.
But as I say, the primary function of ransomware is to generate money, and we can kind of see that in this pie chart here, that the four biggest sections that it's targeting are all kind of private sector, commercial entities which are looking to try and make money themselves. So they are going to have the money, and because of that, they are going to be more likely to pay the ransom demands, because they it's disrupting to their business. They need to start they need to get back all their systems and all their data so they can continue making money again.
Gosh. And the interesting thing about ransomware is that it's to deploy ransomware, you need access. You need the access first, and this is where we come in, and we'll come on to this in a few slides. And it harks back to what I said earlier. You don't know what you don't know. If you if you don't know what's happening and what's been, whether you've been breached, whether people are selling access to your network or talking about your email address or brand or domain or a product, even, you can't do anything about it. You're operating blindly, and this is very much what we're really trying to focus on and get people to understand, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we are really looking at a lot of the places where credentials and data is sold online, trying to identify that point where a access to a company or access to an employee's credentials are being sold, as that's kind of the first step within kind of the
Chain
TCPs
of
within that kill chain. Really, we refer to them as initial access brokers, and there are people online selling access to networks, selling the relevant credentials needed to access a network, and then they'll sell these to other threat actors who will have access to the ransomware, and they will then deploy the ransomware. So what we're trying to do is, kind of get into that point, where the data is being sold but hasn't actually been utilized to deploy the ransomware, so that we can make sure that people with access to our data can see that there is this risk coming and take action before catastrophe.
Understood. So these are something called Dark Map, which is built into the SOS Intelligence platform. We've got 3 slides showing 3 dark maps now, and this is the first one, Black Basta. So can you let us know a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a little bit of fun at the end. This is what Dark Map does. It sits within, as I say, sits within our platform, and it basically shows all the links between all the different onions that are within Tor. So the system we use does try to group the linked onions, and we can see that visually. There are kind of elements of color on there which indicate where the specific groups are. You can see in the bottom right hand corner there's a lot of kind of pink around the outside, which is used for kind of the single links, the onions which only have one link into something that is more closely into the middle. But what we're seeing here is something that's focused on the Black Basta blog, and then showing all the links around that are connected to that. So that's kind of that haze in the middle is all the different onion domains that are connected to that. And then we can kind of look at some of the other ransomware blogs as well. So we look at Clop here. It's got a few more in there. It's a little bit more dense, and kind of going out as well. We can look at Lockbit even further, which is even more dense. Lockbit has several different blog sites that it uses. A lot more people have heard of Lockbit, so there are a lot more of kind of the aggregator sites out there, which basically just point to where things are on Tor, pointing at Lockbit as well. So we are kind of seeing this as being one of the more popular sites, and that's what it draws people into it as well.
Yeah, understood. And something that we kind of we've not skirted around, but it's the actual hard evidence of what people do, and this is actually a quote from our founder Amir, and it is sort of what we're seeing and the evidence around what we've been talking around. So we've observed that if warnings of credential loss are ignored, that on average a user account will be compromised within 48 hours. And this to me is staggering statistics. If people don't know what's happening, they can't do anything about it. And then you see this being compromised. And this is where this is this kind of pre-crime we talk about. Neither of us are Tom Cruise, and we haven't got any maps to move around, but it's kind of true, isn't it? This pre-crime aspect of things.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's we can't quite call it pre-crime, because if your credentials have been stolen, if your network's been breached, that is a crime. But it's trying to get before the big serious crime. It's pre-catastrophe.
That's a
for want of a better phrase. So
yes,
it's trying. As I said before, it's just trying to help protect you and your business and your company from being subjected to the serious cybercrime before it gets too late. And we're just trying to kind of signpost that. We're trying to ingest as much data as we can so that we can try and see these instances of credential loss or account compromise as soon as it becomes available, and through our alerting system kind of make you aware of that as soon as that data touches our servers.
And it's an efficiency thing as well, isn't it? Because you'd need a huge, I mean, I don't know how you'd do it, to be able to actually go around manually and refresh and monitor whether, blogs, journals, whatever you want to call it, channels, Telegram, or it's impossible. Whereas the whole point of using something like SOS Intelligence, it brings that data to you, but only the data you need based on the keywords which you've said, hey, I need to know when these things are mentioned. So it's a big efficiency thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of we can handle the heavy lifting so that you as our customers, you get what you need. You don't have to sort through all the wheat and the chaff to try and get down to the bits that are important to you. We can gather all that intelligence and make it available to you in a way that you only see what you need to see, the things that are going to make are going to be most value to you.
Got it. And then you are able to take action, and I think that's very much summed up by this slide. If you don't know what's happened or happening, you can't do anything about it, and you're blind to the danger. And we give you that ability to actually act upon the intelligence that we curate and deliver to you. So that's really important. So can you believe it? We are over half an hour. It's lovely to see so many people from all around the world tuning in to listen to Daniel and myself, but we've got a few moments left. First of all, a couple of little bits of housekeeping. If you'd like to ask questions to Daniel, he's very kindly said he's very willing to speak to you, and if you want to email daniel@sosintel.co.uk, please feel free to reach out. The other thing to do is, if you are interested in actually seeing what we do in the actual platform, I would implore you to do so, because I think you'd be delighted. We've recently upgraded all of our user experience, our UX, user interface. It's incredibly easy to use. And if you go to sosintel.co.uk, there's a nice button on most pages saying book a demo. So I really would encourage you to do so. We haven't had, we've got one more question. Ben's being a bit of a comedian here, so let's flag this one up. Any plans for publishing your own colouring book? Not at the moment, Ben. I haven't got the time, sadly, and I don't think Daniel has as well. But if you do, we'd buy it and we'd colour in for you. So appreciate the question. It's always good to have a comedian in the house. So I don't think there's anything else to cover. So thank you ever so much for your time, Daniel. It's lovely to have you here again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And please do get in touch, everybody. Do follow us on Twitter. We have a fantastic blog as well, which you can subscribe to. We have CVE alerts broadcast on the blog every Monday. Our special reports are there as well. Best way to get those to your inbox is look out for the sign up for the newsletter on the website as well on sosintel.co.uk. So thank you again for tuning in. It's lovely to see people from all around the world, and look out for our next webinar, which we are already planning. Thank you so much for your time today. Take care. Thanks, Daniel.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Cheers. Bye-bye.